What if from season 4 just dropped the most terrifying revelation about the town yet, and what if we all missed it? Because after this episode, I'm starting to believe the nightmare was never actually trapped inside the town. It's spreading. And Julie? She might have just become the first person to truly crack the code of this cursed place. What begins as a bizarre experiment with bookmarks quickly spirals into something far bigger, a theory that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about Ethan, Miranda, the storybooks, and even the enigmatic Yellow Suit Man. And if Julie's right, then escaping this place isn't about surviving monsters anymore. It's about learning how to control the story itself. But before we dive into the deep end, let's recap what actually went down in this episode. Tabitha tells Julie to pack her bags because she, Ethan, and the others are heading out to find the mysterious Lake of Tears. But Julie refuses. She's fully committed to figuring out how her strange abilities work alongside Randall. And let's just say Tabitha's warning to Randall before leaving is loaded, basically telling him to keep his hands to himself and his paranoia in check. Because, let's be real, Randall is not the safest person to be left alone with anyone, especially someone as vulnerable as Julie. After Tabitha leaves, Julie and Randall dig deeper into Fred's story and uncover his strange use of bookmarks to revisit different chapters. That's when Julie gets an idea. What if time in the town works like pages in a story? What if you can mark a moment and return to it? But during the experiment, things take a dark turn. Julie accidentally witnesses what appears to be the final moments of Miranda and Eloise's timeline, where she comes face-to-face with the terrifying Yellow Suit Man. And here's the kicker, he doesn't even recognize her. Now, let's talk about why this episode might have secretly changed everything. First, this episode does an incredible job of showing just how much Julie has evolved. Remember earlier seasons? Julie was just like everyone else, scared, confused, and desperately trying to survive. But season 4 is quietly turning her into one of the most brilliant and dangerous characters in the entire show. Not because she's physically powerful, but because she's finally trying to understand the rules of this twisted game. And that's a game changer. Because while everyone else is still thinking like survivors, waking up every day just trying not to die, Julie is thinking like someone who wants to beat the system. She's no longer asking, how do we survive? She's asking, how does this place actually work? And that shift in mindset might just make her the most important person in Throne. This is why her argument with Tabitha feels so significant. On the surface, it looks like a mother trying to protect her daughter. Tabitha wants Julie to come to the Lake of Tears because, let's face it, she doesn't trust Randall. And honestly, can you blame her? This is Randall we're talking about, the same guy who tied Donna to a tree because he thought she was hiding secrets. The same guy who swings between paranoia and aggression like it's a hobby. So, leaving Julie behind with him? That's a nightmare waiting to happen. But Julie's refusal to leave tells us something huge. She believes she's onto something bigger than the Lake of Tears. While everyone else is chasing answers across the map, Julie thinks the answers might already be hidden inside the town itself, buried in the way time works. And honestly, I think she might be right. Because once Julie and Randall start reading Fred's story, the entire episode takes a sharp turn into the unknown. They discover that Fred supposedly used bookmarks to revisit certain stories or chapters. And immediately, Julie starts connecting the dots between that idea and the town's bizarre time mechanics. Now, I know this sounds insane at first, but let's be real. From stopped being a show where normal logic applies a very long time ago. At this point, these characters have dealt with monsters that only come out at night, impossible roads that trap people forever, teleportation trees, visions of dead children, creepy music box nightmares, and timelines that barely make sense. So, the idea that time could work like chapters in a story, honestly, it doesn't even sound that crazy anymore. And this is where Julie drops a bombshell that completely changes how I see the show. She says the town is leaking. Pause and think about how massive that statement is. Julie believes pieces of this place are escaping into the real world, not physically, but mentally. In other words, people outside the town are unknowingly receiving fragments of it through dreams, visions, stories, and imagination. And suddenly, everything starts to click. Maybe Ethan's strange visions weren't random. Maybe Miranda wasn't losing her mind. Maybe those drawings weren't just imagination. What if they were all receiving signals from the town? That idea is terrifying because it suggests this place isn't isolated at all. It's influencing people long before they ever set foot inside. It's almost like the town chooses people ahead of time, planting little pieces of itself into their minds before pulling them in. And if that theory is true, then the implications are huge, because suddenly the town stops feeling like a prison. It starts feeling like an infection, something that spreads, something that watches, something that slowly reaches into reality through dreams and stories until the right people are pulled toward it. That's horrifying. But Julie? She sees opportunity in it. If the town follows narrative rules, if it truly behaves like a story, then maybe stories can be manipulated. That's where the bookmark theory comes in. Julie's idea is surprisingly clever. She believes that when she enters another timeline through story walking, she might be able to leave behind an object, essentially creating a marker between chapters. So, She plans to carry a piece of paper marked with an X and drop it inside another timeline. If the paper disappears from her hand in the present, then she'll know she successfully transferred something across timelines. Basically, Julie is trying to hack the town. And honestly, this might be one of the smartest plans anyone from has ever attempted. Because for once, someone isn't blindly following clues. Someone is testing the system. Now, before all of this, Julie suddenly cuts her hair, explaining that long hair makes it easier for monsters to grab onto her. Look, I'll admit that explanation felt a little funny, but symbolically I think the haircut matters. TV shows almost never include major appearance changes by accident. Haircuts usually represent transformation, reinvention, or emotional growth. This doesn't feel like the same scared Julie we met earlier in the series. This feels like someone preparing for war. Someone becoming harder. Someone adapting. And then we get to the ruin sequence. Easily the creepiest moment of the episode. Julie enters another chapter while Randall watches helplessly nearby, waiting for some kind of sign that the experiment worked. The tension here is palpable, because for a moment it feels like Julie might actually pull this off. But then things go completely sideways. Julie finds herself witnessing what appears to be the final moments of Miranda and Eloise's timeline. And honestly, this scene alone raises so many questions because it suggests Julie isn't just seeing visions anymore. She may actually be physically visiting moments from previous timelines. That changes everything, because if Julie can access the past or alternate cycles, then suddenly, history inside the town becomes reachable. Mistakes could potentially be corrected. Answers could be found. People could maybe even be saved. And then he appears, the yellow suit man. And somehow, he becomes even more terrifying than before. Because instead of standing around delivering creepy dialogue, we catch him doing something genuinely disturbing. It looks like he's consuming what appears to be someone's liver. And whether that's exactly what's happening or not, the implication is horrifying. This man, or whatever he is, doesn't feel like the ordinary creatures. He feels older, smarter, different, almost like he exists above the rules everyone else follows. But the most interesting part isn't what he's doing, it's how he reacts to Julie. Because when he spots her, he immediately charges toward her like she's just another victim. No recognition, no familiarity, nothing. And this is where things get really interesting. Think back to the beginning of season 4. The yellow suit man told Julie, "We have to stop meeting like this." That line only makes sense if they already know each other, if they've crossed paths before. But here, he reacts like he's never seen her in his life. So what if we've been looking at their relationship completely backwards? What if this moment we just witnessed is actually Julie's first chronological encounter with him? Not ours, hers. That would explain everything. From Julie's perspective, this may be the first time she has ever met the yellow suit man. But from his perspective, he may have encountered her dozens of times already. And suddenly, that creepy familiarity in episode 1 becomes even scarier, because it means their relationship might not exist in a straight timeline at all. They may be experiencing events completely out of order. Imagine how terrifying that is for Julie, to be trapped in a place where your future enemy already knows you better than you know them, where someone has memories of encounters you haven't even lived through yet. That is nightmare fuel, and honestly, this feels very From. The show is always at its best when it leans into cosmic horror and impossible rules instead of trying to explain everything too quickly. Because the scariest thing about this town has never really been the monsters, it's the uncertainty. It's the feeling that reality itself is broken, and this episode pushes that idea harder than ever. Now, technically speaking, Julie's experiment failed. The bookmark didn't work. The paper stayed unchanged. No tether between timelines was created. But I actually think calling this a failure misses the point. Physically, yes, the experiment failed. But narratively, it revealed something much bigger. It showed us that Julie can access incredibly important moments in the town's history. It confirmed that the Yellow Suit Man's timeline may not line up with Julie's. And most importantly, it strengthened the possibility that the town operates like a story instead of reality. Chapters. Repetition. Cycles. Characters trapped in patterns they barely understand. Suddenly, the title, From, starts feeling even creepier. Because what if nobody in town is trapped somewhere? What if they're trapped inside something? A story. A nightmare that keeps rewriting itself. And if Julie is right about the town leaking into the real world, then maybe the horror hasn't even happened yet. Maybe the horror was never contained. Maybe it's already spreading beyond the forest. And if that's true, then escaping the town may not actually end the story at all. So, what do you think? Is Julie onto something? Or is she walking straight into a trap even she can't see? Let us know in the comments, and follow and subscribe to our channel Movies and Series Madness for more deep dives into your favorite shows.